Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast, traders. On the US dollar, we did see a significant push down, especially on the 4-hour time frame. This 4-hour downward trend line is really distinct. It's very obvious. Things are looking weak on the dollar, especially this past week. We did talk about last week how on the daily chart we had this beautiful daily upper trend line and the trend line was removed, but a lot of the times what we see when trend lines are removed, it can just be a fake out, and as we push up higher, this could have been an option that we've seen. But like I just said on the 4-hour chart, we created a beautiful 4-hour downward trend line. We almost pushed up to this supply zone. We were talking about this supply zone, and we were actually talking about this demand. And we were saying we could basically be playing both sides. We did get that reaction off the demand, so close to pushing up to this supply, but we failed to push up. We broke below, and more importantly, we broke two demand zones, one from here and one here. This one goes back a little further back. So two demand zones on the 4-hour chart have broken. We have a very clear and obvious downward trend and trend line on the 4-hour time frame as well. All signs right now are pointing to the downside on the dollar. If we start to rally up, break the trend line, if we have a demand zone there, we react off the demand, create some sort of trend line to the upside, then we will be bullish. But in the meantime, we are bearish on the dollar. It doesn't mean you can't long the dollar. It just means to remember that the dollar is bearish. So if you are going to be getting long on some of the dollar pairs, it might be best to be aggressive with your profit taking, guys. Like I said, we need to monitor this downward trend line as well on the 4-hour time frame, because honestly, I thought we were going to push all the way up to 110.66. up to this weekly supply. That's where I thought we were headed, but obviously now this past week, pretty red candle with the 4-hour downtrend, daily upward trend line broken. Things are looking weak. I think we could pull back, maybe even all the way down to like the 105 area. We have a little hidden rally buying area right down here. I don't have this as demand as far as my chain analysis goes. I'm not going to get too much detail on that, but I think this could be our temporary target on the dollar, guys, right? So if we just put our target right there, that is where I think we could be headed, and then maybe get a reaction to then push up to 110 to that weekly supply. So as far as the dollar goes this week, guys, we need to definitely monitor the 4-hour downward trend line that I talked to you guys about. See if we can get some new supply zones created on the dollar. But in the meantime, guys, it is shorts all the way on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar on the weekly time frame here. First, going to do a little bit of a top-down approach. We have a weekly downtrend. It doesn't mean we can't get in long. We had clear profit margin down to weekly demand at 0.996. Doesn't look like we're getting down to there though, so that's a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. So we have to go to the lower time frames. The daily chart here, we can see we've got a beautiful reaction off that daily supply. Almost hit the lows. This was a daily supply zone we called out in the in the forecast back in December. So go back and watch that if you want to see evidence of that. And we got a nice reaction off it. Came back in for a second touch. And I don't think we are going to, get that second reaction off the zone. And here's why. Let me just zoom in just a bit. You can see this daily supply was tested very deeply. So usually if price comes up for a first time and just wicks out of a zone like this, you will often see a second reaction off of it. It doesn't mean we won't get a second reaction here, but the odds are, since we tested the zone very deep, basically 90% of the way in, I personally think it is going to break. If we do break this supply or this high, we will have a upward trend line and upward trend on the daily time frame, which is going to be very bullish for the euro, guys. So how do we trade the euro right now? Well, on the 4-hour time frame here, you can see we have a pretty nice 4-hour upward trend line. Very obvious in my opinion. So you need to draw this trend line, connect your points from here to here. That is the correct way to draw the trend line. We never cut through candles and trend lines. It makes absolutely no sense to do that. So what I'd be looking at here, basically if this upward trend line can be respected, 15-minute time frame longs are going to be good on the Euro USD. It's really that simple. And even on the 1-hour time frame here, we also have a 1-hour trend line to the upside as well. One of the members in the group was pointing out this little area here as the demand, and I see what he's saying, right? But in my opinion, the real demand is down here. It's a much stronger zone. We are ignoring this wick. I'm not going to get a detail on that, but at 1.042, this is our nearest zone on the 1-hour time frame. We could see a move off of that 1-hour zone there. So it's definitely a zone to have on your charts, drawn exactly like how I had it, and this upper trend line as well. So and like I said, if this trend line's holding on the 1-hour time frame, then 5-minute time frame longs are going to be good as well on the Euro USD. So it's really longs all the way. On the day trading time frames, just monitor the 4-hour and the 1-hour trend lines. Make sure those are being respected, and you continue to look for longs. Even if you don't trade supply and demand, that's fine. But I'm just pointing out the proper trend lines there. It is looking bullish. And going back to the daily chart real quick before we move on to onto gold, if we do remove this daily supply and we have a daily demand zone here, I will have that zone for the members and on my daily chart analysis there, and we could definitely be looking for a swing trade long, even day trade longs inside that daily demand. This will take days to play out, guys. I'm just kind of referencing what we could see in the future if this 1-hour and 4-hour trend continue to hold. So in the meantime, guys, like I said, longs all the way. Map out the 1-hour zone, the 4-hour trend line, and the 1-hour trend line here on the Euro USD. On to the forecast for gold on the weekly time frame. Beautiful trends to the upside. It's just, I love the price action on the lower time frames on gold. I just hate this on the weekly chart. There's no real demand being formed here. The only real demand I see is down here, and even this one down here. Actually, I'm looking at it again. I'm gonna get rid of it. It's actually more right here. So that would be the demand zone right here. I know this is so far away, right? But I have to do it. But anyways, the issue with the weekly time frame here is there's no real demand to pull back into to get a massive swing trade from. So it's not great in the weekly chart. It is great. The trends are great. The momentum is fantastic. I would definitely agree with that. On the 1-hour chart here, we were approaching this high. I mapped out the high here just to see if we could break it. We failed pretty miserably, and we pushed down quite significantly here. So on the 1-hour chart, looking at this chart, if anyone sees this chart and you want to trade this, I don't know. I don't like trading a chart like this. It's very choppy in my opinion. So it's not, a market I would want to be trading. Going to the 4-hour chart, we still have an upward trend line that's being respected. It goes back to here, and it's currently being respected. So as long as this trend line on the 4-hour time frame is being respected, I personally think looking for longs is fine. I would stick to the 15-minute chart only, really. That's really it. We're coming back into the zone very aggressively. It's barely tested here. I ignored this massive wick here, just so you guys know. Again, I'm not going to get into detail on that, but it's barely tested. Could we see move off of it? Sure. It's not a great time to be trading at that zone, like I said, because it's tested. So if you are going to get in long at this demand at 28.83, 15-minute confirmation is going to be necessary, which means you're going to have to go down to a 15-minute chart, wait for supply zones to be removed and 15-minute demand zones to be created, and look for a day trade long off that zone. That's the only way I'd be getting in long at the zone again. And then, like I said, monitor this trend line. As long as that's holding, you could look for 15-minute time frame longs as well. So as far as gold goes, unfortunately, we don't really have any new or fresh zones to point out. Just a nice trend on the 4-hour chart, weekly and the daily as well. So it is longs all the way on gold. Hopefully this week we can get some new zones, especially formed on the 1-hour chart by continuing to push up. So hopefully gold continues to push up here. If we continue to pull back, I really don't know where we are headed, to be honest. It's possible we pull back all the way down to the below 2,800 again. And long term, it's even possible we pull back to like 2,300, right? That's for another video. But in the meantime, guys, it's longs all the way. Just make sure you are monitoring the 4-hour trend and the 4-hour demand zone. All right, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. Just a reminder on the higher time frame, the weekly chart, we had this drop base rally demand zone that took out opposing supply. That's my chain analysis that we talk about in the membership. And so far, we did get a move up to here from the zone. I mean, I don't want to say it's looking weak. It's definitely not. I don't like this pullback into the zone again, but honestly, it's a good weekly zone. It's a beautiful, very strong move away. I definitely think we could see a move off of it. It doesn't mean we can't look for shorts. It just means if you are going to look for shorts on the lower time frames here, since this higher time frame weekly demand is in control, we need to be aggressive with profit taking if you are going to get in short. So let's go down to the lower time frames with this weekly higher time frame demand in our minds, right? We need to remember that there's nothing really on the daily chart to go off of here. We had a beautiful daily trend. We lost it. We lost the trend. We have a great demand all the way down here at 143.95. I'm not saying we're to get down to there, but if we do, I think it's a great area to look for longs, but that's for another day. We still have a 4-hour downward trend line holding. The trend line is connected from up here to here. Not here. That's not where it's connected, but clearly we reacted off of it there, and we failed to break it. It was respected. So as long as this 4-hour downward trend line is holding, I don't mind looking for shorts on a 15-minute chart. But remember, the weekly time frame demand is in control, so it's definitely best to put your stop loss to break even as soon as you can, or look only for like a 1-to-1, 2-to-1 trade. If you trade 5-to-1 trades or something like that, you probably don't want to be getting in short here, because I don't know if you're going to get that due to the fact that that weekly higher time frame demand is in control. And since the demand is in control, we could technically be waiting for a confirmation, and the confirmation would be on this 4-hour time frame, and it's going to look something like this. Let's say we remove that downward trend line. If there's a 4-hour demand zone there, great. That would be our confirmation demand zone. That's basically the confirmation model that we will be looking for on the yen. It's also possible, let's say we push up, break the downward trend line, and there's no demand here at all. And that's fine as well, because then if we push up, if we break this supply zone and there's a demand zone here, that is also our confirmation. So we are basically waiting for this downward trend line to be removed for our long confirmation, or we are waiting for this supply to be removed for our long confirmation as well. And look, let's say there's a zone here, but it breaks the trend line. We push up, you're still in long, we break this supply, and we have another zone. Then you could take your stop loss from here, bump it up to here, get in long here, just add on to your position. So it's really setting up for a very nice potential trading atmosphere if we can break that 4-hour downward trend and zone, especially since the weekly time frame demand is in control. So the USD yen excites me because it seems like we want to push to the all-time highs, and I'm personally be waiting for that to see if that downward trend line is going to be broken. But then, like I said, the shorts are lower odds right now. There is a 1-hour supply above at 153.42. It is not bad. Not my favorite zone, but it is a supply. We could see a move off of it. It's best to look for a 5-minute time frame confirmation model inside of that supply to just confirm your entry, because again, it's not even a great zone, and like I said, the weekly demand is in control as well. So that is the analysis and the forecast on the USDJPY. Remember guys, if you guys have any questions at all, do not hesitate to leave a comment and I will respond to every single comment. On to the forecast for the GBPUSD. We talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. We were sitting basically in the middle between supply and demand. So we pretty much had to go with the lower time frames to suggest where price is going to go. Was it going to go lower or was it going to go higher? And on the daily chart, we had a daily downward trend line. So with this daily downward trend line being respected, it's not anymore, but when it was, we were saying price is probably going to go down. Well, now we have broken that daily downward trend line. We broke it here, we broke it with this demand. Beautiful move off the daily demand zone there. Nice to see that. So it is definitely a sign of bullishness. The ultimate sign of bullishness to me would be an actual daily trend to the upside where we can draw a trend line. That to me would be the ultimate buy signal. But honestly guys, with the daily downward trend line broken, with the daily demand created and respected twice, honestly things are looking pretty strong here. On the pound, I certainly don't mind looking for longs on the pound. On the 1-hour chart, we have a beautiful trend to the upside. This trend line is getting a little bit out of the way here, but honestly, it's looking good. So if you are a day trader, 5-minute time frame longs are good as long as this trend line is being respected. Pullbacks down to this 1-hour demand zone at 1.252 looks very similar to the euro with this little wick thing here. Pullbacks down to that zone could also be a potential setup as well. Remember guys, if you don't feel comfortable with just placing an entry and a stop loss below, you can always look for confirmation on a day trading time frame, whatever you want to do. That is definitely fine as well. But that is our 1-hour zone that I'm seeing here on the GBPUSD. And on the 4-hour chart, this 4-hour zone is a little bit farther away, so maybe we'll talk about that another time. But we do have a nice 4-hour trend to the upside, beautiful 4-hour trend line. As long as that's being respected, you could be looking for longs on a 15-minute chart. We are reacting off of 4-hour supply. I pointed this one out very, very long time ago. And honestly, it's a great supply, right? It's a resistance trap right before it. It's just we took so long to pull back into it. It's not really my favorite zone anymore. Could we see a move off of it? Sure. It is a strong 4-hour area of supply. So what I will say, if we can remove this supply, since we are mostly bullish on the pound, if we can remove that supply and we create a 4-hour demand zone there, I think looking for longs in this 4-hour demand zone will be good. And that is a zone that I'll have for the Diamond members on my daily chart analysis and in the daily market breakdown videos. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links are in the description down below. So this is basically what we're waiting for on the 4-hour chart. But like I said, we have a nice trend line to the upside on the 4-hour and the 1-hour charts. So longs all the way in day trading timeframes, and that 1-hour zone is looking good as well, like I was pointing out earlier, and we can wait for the 4-hour supply to be removed to create some new zones. And back to the weekly time frame, we have tons of profit margin up to 1.29, where then we should definitely be looking to switch to shorts, or at least be taking profits on our longs on the GBPUSD. On to the forecast for the USDCAD. Looking at the weekly time frame first, I was talking the last couple weeks, I mean, even since here, I was saying, look, we are quote-unquote due for a pullback. When I say that, I'm doing the air quotes right now in my office. You can't see me, obviously, but I'm doing the air quotes. When I say we are due for a pullback, it doesn't mean we are going to get one, but we clearly have. The CAD has really fallen, or the USD CAD has really fallen a lot. And where are we pulling back into? It is very difficult to say. On the weekly chart, the weekly demand is all the way down at 1.35. I'm not saying we're going to get this move down, but if we do, that is pretty much our target to then switch to a potential long trade. On the daily time frame, we also removed this daily area of demand, and that has left us with a daily supply zone here that I'm going to draw right now. It's not a bad zone. What I like about the zone, right, the basing is not bad. The move away is decent as well. I would prefer to see a little bit of a bigger move down and then a pullback to that daily supply. But this daily supply could definitely be used for potential swing trading shorts. You could turn a day trade. You could basically be day trading short in there as well and turn a day trade into a potential swing trade as well. That is definitely another option. But like I said, I like this demand I like this supply because it removed this demand, and this demand was a very proven area of demand. We got a beautiful move off of it. So when a proven demand zone is removed, it makes the supply that removes it even better. So I'm definitely going to have my eyes on that daily supply for potential trades on the USD CAD right now. And how do we trade the CAD right now? If you want to get aggressive with your entry, we have two supply zones here on the 1-hour time frame. The first one, well, first of all, we have a 1-hour downward trend line. So as long as that's being respected, 5-minute time frame shorts are completely fine. Pullbacks up to that 1-hour supply at 1.422 is also a good little zone, nice little base drop supply. And if we remove that, that's fine. We have this supply above that's actually better than this one. This one is better than this one, in my opinion. We have that supply. We could definitely see a move off that as well at 1.426. So make sure you draw these two 1-hour supply zones on your charts. Make sure you draw that downward trend line as well. And it's shorts all the way here on the USD CAD. It is technically, it's technically counter trend to the weekly time frame. But honestly, with breaking this daily demand, I think we are going to get a pullback here. So honestly, I think it's best to, at this time, at least until, if we can continue to trend to the downside in the 1-hour chart and we respect the daily supply, it's really shorts all the way here on the USD CAD. On to the forecast for the AUDUSD on the daily chart first. We broke this downward trend line on the daily chart. We do not have a daily trend, so I'm not extremely bullish here. I usually like trading with a daily trend. That's just my personal preference. So I'm not super bullish here, but with the nice clean break of the daily downward trend line, things are definitely looking strong, and it's really apparent on the lower time frames. Over here on the 1-hour chart, we have a nice 1-hour trend to the upside. I'm not really seeing any good demand zones as far as my chain analysis goes here, but I will say 5-minute time frame longs are good with that 1-hour trend to the upside. The 4-hour chart is quite intriguing. I don't really want to draw a trend line here. I mean, you can, it's just, I don't know how I feel about it. So I'm not going to draw it right now. However, we have a nice 4-hour trend to the upside. So longs are good, and we don't, if you want to, like, just so it's clear, you can have a trend to the upside without a trend line. So just want to make that clear. But I like this chart for longs on a 15-minute chart. What I'm hoping for is we can get a pullback all the way down to 0.622 and get a nice clean entry off that zone with a clear support liquidity trap right above the demand zone. So that's the zone I have my eye out on. I'm not saying I'm I'm not saying we're going to get a pullback down to there. Might be best, since this is kind of choppy price action and it's kind of a small zone, maybe have a wider stop on this one, but it could be very rewarding. That's the zone I'm looking for. But in the meantime, guys, it's really day trading longs all the way on the Aussie until we can get a pullback down to that 4-hour demand zone on the AUDUSD. On to the forecast for the USDCHF. On the weekly chart here, we failed to break this high. It's really unfortunate. And now that we are breaking this daily upward trend line here, I mean, technically we have, if you can see over here, we have 53 minutes left at the time of recording this in this daily candle. So technically it's not removed yet, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to call it removed now. Could price spike up? Yes, probably not though. We'll have to see. But if price closes just like this, it is going to be removed. And that is going to leave us with a daily supply above, or exactly where I just drew it. So if we can pull back up to this daily supply, it could be good for a potential swing trade short if you are bearish on the USD Swiss. If we continue to go down, I think we are clearly headed down to 0.886, down to this demand zone where we could definitely see a move to the upside. And that would be a great area to look for swing trades and day trades in as well at that daily demand on the USDCHF. How do we trade it right now? I don't really see anything on the 1-hour chart. Even on the 4-hour chart, we technically have a 4-hour downward trend, but it's just not great. And the reason is because there's really no trend line, but it is a trend. It's just not my favorite market condition. We do have a little supply zone here as well on the 1-hour, on the 4-hour time frame. It is not amazing, but it's not terrible either. If we do pull back up to that supply at 0.90, 0.902, I think we could maybe see a move off of it to continue to push down and break the lows there. So that's really all I'm seeing on the Swiss right now. And of course, day trading shorts are good because of the 4-hour trend on the downside. And like I said, profit, I don't really see any clear demand zone on the daily chart until down to that 0.88 area. So there is really a lot of potential downside move here on the Swiss. Last but not least, we are on to crude oil, starting with the higher time frame weekly chart here. Just want to show you guys this first before we go through the lower time frames. We have a nice rally-based rally. Weekly demand's in control. And I'm not saying this demand zone is going to hold 100%. I never will say a zone is going to hold 100%. But when we have a weekly demand in control like this, you know, we kind of have to go with it. It doesn't mean we just hop on long, but it definitely is something we need to consider. So with that being said, let's go to the lower time frames, keeping this weekly higher time frame demand in control. There's nothing on the daily chart at all to go off of. It's really just sideways. So this oil chart's all going to revolve around this 4-hour supply. I'll keep it that simple. You can see we have this pretty nice downward trend line here from here to here. A beautiful downward trend on the 4-hour chart. So if you think I'm absolutely wrong on that weekly demand, you think oil is going to go down and continue to go down, you could be shorting, and I would only be shorting as long as this downward trend line is being respected on a 15-minute chart, or up at this 4-hour supply at 70 to 80. Those are your trading possibilities on oil for shorts. But remember, the weekly demand is in control. So in theory, we could be looking for a confirmation trade, and that's going to look something hopefully like this. The best case scenario would be remove the downward trend line and the supply at the same time. Maybe stop here, boom, create a nice 4-hour demand zone there, and that would be our confirmation entry right there. That is what I'm going to be looking for on oil here. I personally won't be shorting. I don't day trade anyways. I won't be shorting. I'll be waiting to trade with my higher time frame, the weekly demand, by waiting for these zones to be removed. So it's a good little supply there. Again, it could even be a time where we remove it, but we get a nice one-to-one trade. Maybe you capture, you know, this move where I'm personally just going to capture the demand zone that removes it. That's just what I'm going to do. So there's definitely many options. There's never a right and wrong with trading, guys. It's always just based on what your strategy says. And I'm just telling you what the higher odds situations are here on crude oil. Basically, all going to revolve around that downward trend line and the 4-hour supply at 72.80 here on crude oil. If you want to watch the full-length forecast and get my daily chart analysis and daily market breakdown videos, join the Diamond membership. Links in the description down below.